Welcome to the Natural Bodybuilding and Chill podcast, episode number 6, with yours truly, Gary Glutes Amlinger and and Dirk. Dirk, hello? Oh, yes, that's right. It's a very sad day today, guys. Dirk Digger Emmerich won't be joining us today. He's in what we like to call monk mode for anyone that's been in competition prep. The final month or two is basically solitude and isolation. So we send our prayers to Monk Dirk today on a very successful Worlds prep and WNBF Germany Pro competition, which is coming up even before that. So we miss Mr. Dirk. I miss him greatly, but we will meet again soon. On another note, I get probably 2 or 3 messages, every week on what I take in terms of supplements, aside from, the occasional D-ball and Winstrol. So I have my supplements here for you guys. We'll start off the pod with a good old jar of protein. So let's see if the blurred background behaves here. Okay. So this Optimum Nutrition Gold Standard Whey, I've been taking this for, man, I want to say a good 20 years. It was one of the original proteins that I tried when I was younger, and it always did pretty well with my stomach. The taste is really good. I still enjoy it. I mean, they have a bunch of new flavors now. This one is mocha cappuccino, which is one of my favorite flavors. Extreme milk chocolate is up there, Rocky Road as well. And let's be honest, no one likes vanilla protein. If you do, there's something wrong with you. So, yeah, I mean, it's solid. There's a decent amount of protein, about 24 per scoop, and a low amount of fat, which you gotta love. We want to save our fat, especially if we're in the competition mode where our fat is extremely low. So, this is my go-to protein throughout prep and the off season. I take about 4 scoops per day, 2 scoops in the morning with my crazy pre-workout meal with oats, peanut butter, fruit. You guys have seen it before. And 2 scoops immediately after I train. Okay. So before I get to the other supplements, we'll just go with plain old coffee. So I didn't really have this when I was in the States. I was actually having Keurig. I would have a couple K cups every morning for training. But since I don't have my K cup machine here, this is doing the job. Nescafe instant coffee. Now you can get a dark roast or smooth, it honestly doesn't matter. I believe the lighter roasts have more caffeine, but I don't know if that's really proven. It seems all the same to me. So I have like, man, about 20 grams of this stuff every morning with my breakfast. Kind of wakes me up because I do train in the morning. I wake up, I eat, do some client work, and then I'm off to the gym. So between, let's say, when I wake up to when I train is about 3 hours. So this gives me like a awakening period for me. And we can start off with a basic supplement that I just take every day, vitamin D3. I personally take 4,000 IUs a day. It depends on, the individual, but that's a good amount for me. I take this every single day along with creatine. It's a big one. I mean, I'm sure everybody knows about creatine now. It's one of the most researched supplements in the world. And now we're finding out there's actually brain benefits, which will definitely help me out. So that's great. And, a big one, a big question is what I take during my session. So this is something that I take. Again, in the States, I was doing Gatorade powder because it's just cost efficient, but I've yet to find that here. So this one in particular has about 22 grams of carbs. I'll knock back 3 of these. So like I'll take in 60 grams of carbs intra workout. And in the same time period, I'm taking essential amino acids, English. Now, it's a bit better than BCAAs. So BCAAs does get the job done as well, but EAAs are kind of, fueling your system with better amino acids. And there is a hydration thing in here. You're getting some electrolytes and things like that, which is awesome. And honestly, I might start adding salt to my intro workout with this just to get some more sodium because I sweat like crazy when I train. But this is another one here. And so the Optimum Nutrition pre-workout, it's a pre-workout, right? But I don't take it pre-workout. I actually have this during my sessions. So for me, my sessions last, 4 hours plus sometimes. And if I were to take this before training, it's going to peter off probably 2 hours in, and then I'm left, with nothing, 2 hours of training after that. So what I do is, I have my coffee. This is enough caffeine to really kick in for the first couple hours of training. And then this is like the final leg where I'll sip on this throughout my session. And then I'll sometimes like throw in like my Gatorade, in the bottle that I use the pre-workout in and kind of mix it up. But I really pace myself with this pre-workout. Now, this specific one has about 175 grams of 100 milligrams of caffeine per 10 grams. I take 20 grams, so it's like 350. And this also has creatine, by the way. So it's 3.3 grams of creatine per serving. So I'm taking 6.6 grams of creatine during my session. I'm not a big fan of taking creatine around caffeine consumption. Is it the worst thing in the world? No, but I try to avoid it. But with this pre-workout, no really avoiding that. One thing actually, someone just asked me in the gym today is, "Do you take creatine?" I said, "Yeah," and they're like, "Oh, 5 grams per day." I'm like, for everybody, yeah, but since it's such a good supplement, and I try to squeeze out as much as possible out of my supplement consumption, I'm taking about 11 grams, give or take. So this is 6.6, and then I'll take another 5 grams of monohydrate, like I showed you, after training. So I'm taking in like 11 grams. It's good for me. Like I don't have any stomach issues at all. So just gonna keep going. Yeah, and I drink a ridiculous amount of water, so I'm not gonna have any issues there. One other supplement I do recommend is omega-3 fish oils. I don't have it here. I've yet to find a good fish oil in Thailand, so I haven't really, purchased too many of the supplements here. One thing I will say is I'm eating more salmon, which is good. You're getting, a good amount of omega-3s there. But I am going to look harder for omega-3s because it is very, very important for many reasons, joint cholesterol. I mean, it spans the gamut in terms of benefits. So that's one of the top supplements you should take. You just got to make sure the EPA and DHA content is good because a lot of these fish oil companies they'll like put it's almost like a proprietary blend. They'll say, oh, EPA, DHA, 1,000 milligrams, but you don't know what of each and how the quality is. So yeah, that's really it for the supplements. I do have a special treat for you guys today, as I am by myself. I can talk to myself for a long time, but I don't think that's going to be too entertaining for you guys. So the next clip you're going to see is the 2022 WNBF Natural Bodybuilding World Championships. But this time I am pausing on each pose. And another inquiry I get quite a bit is posing tips. So what better way to display and convey my posing tips than basically, you know, watching worlds and critiquing my own posing and telling you guys, what my mindset is when I hit each pose and what I'm trying to do. So, especially for beginners and intermediates, I feel like you guys will get a lot out of this, and even future competitors who are thinking about competing, this can help you as well. Also, just to mention, I am a posing coach, and it's all done online. I coach the posing of amateurs, professionals, and world champion bodybuilders. So if you guys are interested in that, feel free to message me on Instagram. It is Gary Amlinger, or you could shoot me an email. It's amlingergary@gmail.com. but all that information will be in the description down below. And without further ado, enjoy the show, guys. Okay, so here's the lineup. Now the first pose is always the front relax pose. It is the first pose of the symmetry round. The symmetry round is the first round of poses during prejudging of any bodybuilding competition. For this pose, I'm mainly focused on keeping a slight knee bend, driving my knees out to engage my quads, getting my hips slightly back to engage my hip flexors, keeping a healthy arch in my lower back, rib cage as high as possible, and I want to flare my lats toward my competitors and a little bit toward the judges. Some people, you might have to play around with exactly how much you come forward or to the side. You know, everyone's different. But for me, I find that healthy medium. And one thing is for sure, you do not want to shrug your shoulders. You want to let your lats take you nice and wide in this pose here. So our next pose is the side relax pose. I'll lock that in. So for this pose, again, like any pose, the X frame, the V taper, is the most important aspect to focus on when you're posing. The detail of the musculature comes secondary to that. Now, from the ground up, I want to lock my front leg and push my hips in to engage my glutes and my quadriceps. I want to turn my shoulders toward the judges to create the most width possible while contracting my core just enough to make my waist look smaller. Some little tricks and tips here. You want to drive your right shoulder into your right pec to create more size there. And again, we want to really make sure we're not shrugging our shoulders, keeping them nice and wide. On to the rear relax pose. So as you can see, I am taking a slight knee bend here, and I am pushing my glutes and my hips into a neutral position, which is going to help contract my hamstrings and my glutes. One cue I like to tell my posing clients is to almost think like you're leg curling into the floor as you're pushing your glutes and your hips in to really engage those hamstrings as well. Looking at the upper body, I'm really looking to arch my lower back to a decent degree to make sure I get detail in my lower back. Again, very similar to the front relaxed. I want my lats to take my shoulders upward and I don't want to shrug them. Again, makes you look narrow. For a rear relaxed pose, you can bring your elbows a little in front of your body, just like on a rear lat spread, but we'll talk about that later. Again, this is going to have a lot to do with your body type and your strengths and your weaknesses. Here we're going to roll into another side relaxed. Hell of a lineup at 2022 WNBF Worlds. You got Bada, me, Ben Lloyd, Jim McGonigal, Zach Chow. Almost everyone from different countries, which is very cool. Here we have a front double bicep. The king of all poses. So again, we could take a similar stance in the lower body on a front double bicep. Rib cage high, arch lower back. Doesn't really change here either. When it comes to the arms, I like to really bring them a little higher than parallel. Again, it's going to depend on your body type, but one cue that Denise Ponce, who told me a long time ago, she's a judge for the Mr. Olympia. She says basically you want to externally rotate your shoulders a bit and almost do a pec deck with your chest, which I could do a better job here. I didn't do that good of a job, but you're almost pulling with your chest and your lats at the same time, which is going to create more size in those areas, which is always a good thing for our V-taper. Again, on a lot of these poses, you're going to see that I have my thumbs and my hands, like most of the competitors on stage. Just creates a nice clean look. Remember, we want clean lines, smooth lines, and onto the front lat spread. This is definitely one of my favorite poses here. I feel like it's one of my strongest as well. So legs, again, I'm taking the same leg position as I would on a front double and a front relaxed. Rib cage and the lower back, those cues remain. What I like to do here is kind of clamp my thumbs into the sides of my torso and draw my lats out by pulling my elbows to about midline of the body. That's where most people will find their most impressive V-taper, doing it in that manner. And I do like to get some chest engagement here. As you can see, I am contracting my chest to create more size up top, which helps with our V-taper. Now we got the side chest pose. Now here you could see I have my left foot spiked. I'm in about a quarter squat here. And what I like to do with my right leg, which is behind my leg that's showing, is I like to push my right vastus medialis into my left hamstring to give me more sweep. And I try not to contract my quad or my hamstring too much, because it will create more detail, but I will lose that sweep. So again, I could do a better job on that side of things here for next time. As for the upper body, again, we want to show that width. So show the judges how wide you are by turning your shoulders to them. My right shoulder is pushing into my right pec to create that big side chest that the judges are looking for. And also my left arm, I'm actually pulling it away from my body to create some more detail in my front shoulder on that side chest pose. So here we have our side tricep. I feel like I hit it better on the other side, but just to showcase what's to be done on this pose, the legs are going to remain the same as the side chest. The right shoulder is pushing into my right pec, just like on a side chest. It's the exact same on a side tricep. We want some thickness there. Now we could take different grips with my left hand. Some people like to grab their wrist during a side tricep, which I used to do, but I'm finding now that just kind of grabbing my fingers and extending that left arm is giving me a bit more size. So I tend to do that, but feel free to kind of tinker around to see what looks best with your side tricep, and we'll look at the other side. I feel like I hit that better, and the lighting's a little better on that side. You could see more of my tricep. Okay, so turning to the back of the stage, rear double bicep. One of my favorite poses to hit. So here what I'm doing is I'm keeping a healthy knee bend on both legs. I am taking a few inches back with my left foot, and I'm spiking that left foot as well, keeping the right foot planted. This is similar to a rear relax pose because I'm thinking leg curling into the floor as I'm pushing my hips in and contracting my glutes. As for my upper body, good arch here for sure. As you can see, I get a lot of detail on my lower back by doing that. Going to keep that rib cage high. We don't want to slouch, especially on a rear double. And very similar to the front double bicep, we're going to externally rotate. We're going to protract a bit, get our lats out, and then we're going to create detail. So we want to get big first, get nice and big, get nice and wide with the lats, and then clamp down. And I'll go in and out of that pose. You'll see me do that a lot. Is, really trying to create that detail, creating some movement for the judges to see, because the eyes will move toward what's moving. So that's also another good tip for you guys. Onto the rear lat. Now on this pose, same thing as the rear double bicep in terms of the legs. Now this is what I mentioned earlier about the front lat spread being a little different. So for a rear lat spread, you can pull your elbows in front of your torso a bit because you want to create kind of this turtle shell look. And it seems to just get accentuated when you are pulling your elbows a little further past your torso. So not really much else to say. I mean, you really just got to spread your wings as hard as possible, not only forward toward the back of the stage, but also to the sides of myself, so toward my competitors, to create that full look. And again, you could try clamping down on your lower lats as you do a lat spread to create that V taper too. Yeah, this pose has come a long way for me, that's for sure. My back is, most of my life has been a weak point, so looking at these shots here, we still have more work to do for sure, but yeah, these poses have come a long way since I really started competing back in 2018. Okay, another side chest for you guys. Oh, a little bit better angle. I could have turned a little more toward the head judge with my shoulders, but we went over basically all the cues for a side chest. I'd say you really want to vacuum. If I'm being picky, I could have picked my rib cage up higher, created some more thickness, and definitely turned my shoulders a little bit more toward the judges. Zach Chow, all the way to the left, has a phenomenal physique, but especially his upper body, you could see how much his chest is popping out there. And Bada has the crazy quads, some of the best quads in natural bodybuilding. It's highly evident in this pose. Okay. Now we go into another side tricep. I think I hit it a little better here. You can see more quad detail and sweep with this pose. One thing that I could do better for next time is really getting that core in. I tend to have a distended stomach, so I need to really focus next time on keeping that core nice and tight, because I do have a developed core which pushes out my stomach even more. But we're going to have more control over that abdomen for sure. So as you can see my fingers of my left hand grabbing my right hand. Seems to work for me. Actually, a lot of the guys, in this lineup have been hitting this side tricep the same way here, it looks like. Yeah, so this side's much better for me. It's interesting. I wonder if it's the lighting just hitting me different. But usually I feel like my left side's a bit better, to be honest, on that shot, especially the shape of my tricep. So they're just going to move some people around here. Gonna get set for some more poses. And I didn't mention this earlier, but or I may have, the front, side, rear relax is the symmetry, and then after that is muscularity. So every other pose after that is the muscularity poses, and that is the final round of prejudging. Here we're hitting the ab and thigh shot. Okay, so for this pose, my right leg is going to be a bit more bent than usual than I have on other front poses. And my left leg is going to be fully extended, so we're going to really display our quads. This is an ab and thigh shot, so we really want our quads and our core to be accentuated as much as possible. As for my upper body, I'm going to basically make fists and put it directly behind the back of my head. I'm going to slightly pull in my elbows to accentuate my lats a bit more. And I'm blowing all the air out and contracting my core as hard as possible without crunching forward, because then we lose that size. So as you can see, my torso is still upright, as most of the competitors are. They're hitting it very well. Also, apologies to the competitors if I'm getting you mid-pose, but I'm trying to teach everybody the way I pose, and I'm putting up my best shots here, so apologies in advance. Okay, hands on hips. Definitely my worst pose for sure, but I would say we're going to take about the same leg stance as our front relaxed. A little more knee bend, not so much hips back, a little less. And what I'm doing is I'm grabbing my hip flexors or the sides of my hips. I have my thumb showing and the rest of the fingers are behind me. And here I really want to have my elbows in line with my body. I'm doing a decent job of that. I feel like maybe I could have got more elbow flare on this pose. That might have been beneficial. We'll play around with that. But again, contracting your chest, your shoulders, your arms, while staying upright and staying big. So when you contract, you don't want to lose size. So you want to just stay nice and wide and then contract after. I feel like blowing out your air and contracting your core here is beneficial as well. So these are all the big shots. Here's the crab, most muscular. Everybody's favorite pose. And we'll catch that again in a second. Man, everyone looks so good in this pose. So yeah, I decided to pause it here. I feel like that was the best example of me hitting a good most muscular. So front relaxed leg positioning. Now what I like to do on my most muscular is I like to roll my traps forward. I know some people have issues with this. They can't seem to generate that look. But I was always, very, I guess, skilled in that department where I could just roll my traps like literally into my neck without a problem. And from there, I am just flexing my elbows just enough so it's not going to cover my core. And I want to contract my arms, my chest, everything. The most muscular, you're trying to display all of the muscle in your physique. So again, you could play with how much you flare your elbows or lack thereof, depending on your leverages. And then at the end here, I just hit a hands clasped, most muscular, which I'm going to hit more in the future as well.